business is a care provider. They're in the healthcare sector, but unlike traditional care, which is in-house care, these are providing care to children between the ages of 16 and 18 years old. So when they come out of the foster system, typically, at that stage, they are kind of left to their own devices. So this business is a really great business, which is in that care sector, and they help people get tenancies and support themselves through accommodation, paying the bills, and just that ongoing support really to help them transition from being a child to an adult. I was approached by the finance director of the business, and they just hit a stage in their growth whereby they had just exceeded 10 million in revenue. So at that stage, the person who had created the business and had grown the business collaboratively with the staff in the business, he was looking for a partial exit to sell 60% of his share capital through a management buyout. Now, the staff themselves were incentivized through the EOT scheme so that the future of the company was safeguarded within the employee's ownership trust. And there's obviously incentives for the seller to sell some of the share capital into an EOT as well, hence the reason that they're becoming more popular these days. So they had come to us with a debt requirement of 5 million, and the idea behind that was to get Clifton to help them to raise those funds from a cash flow perspective. Their immediate requirement was to obtain the 5 million of funding to go towards the wider transaction. Ultimately, they don't have an access to the market and they don't have the right advice which can help them structure the finance element of the transaction. So we worked closely with them to come up with some structuring, because there was no security, no tangible security available. Ultimately, this was a debenture-led transaction, so it's a cash flow lend, which does require additional CFAB modelling within the transaction, which adds another layer of complexity. So by working with someone like myself, I was able to work through that structuring with the finance director, speak with various lenders on behalf, leveraging our existing relationships, and negotiate the best deal on their behalf. I think the advantage for any FD working with someone like Clifton is that they don't have to have multiple conversations with lenders. They get access to preferential rates and they get the best advice that's in the marketplace. So with this particular business, there was multiple entities within the group structure of the business. And one of the first questions that we tried to establish with the client is what security is available. So generally speaking, there's various types of security that can be taken. And one of the best types of security is property. Within the wider group structure, there was a property company, and within that company, there was lots of different properties. So an obvious question for us was to see if we could fully secure the debt and to amortize it over a longer period of time, which would relieve the monthly cash flow restraints on the business to pay back any debt. That wasn't an option in this scenario because part of the transaction was to remove the property company from the wider group structure, which essentially left just the operating company. So this then ended up being more of a leveraged buyout, which was more of a cash flow lend. And because of that, we had to work with the FD to demonstrate a consistent EBITDA to support the leverage buyout into the EOT. And that's something that we were able to achieve, and we were able to draw down on the 5 million. With any acquisition, if an exiting individual is selling to another individual, with that can come change. Things like key operational members of staff might not be happy in their positions anymore, whereas by selling into an EOT, this sort of future-proofs the business. They can keep the same strategic approach as they had before. The key thing here is by us being able to raise that 5 million of debt, it's a new chapter for them and they can take control ultimately of what the future looks like for the business.